I remember when I was first told about Mother 3. I was in elementary school, which was an eternity ago. I kinda just dismissed it because I figured, hey, I already played Earthbound, this is just gonna be Earthbound except you actually get to see your father and there's no Gygus. I don't need to play this. Turns out, I am the single most stupid piece of brainlet garbage fire on earth. Mother 3 is one of the best games I have ever played in my life. It might be my new favorite RPG, it's that good. No, really. Now before I talk about this, you might be asking why I'm finishing the marathon with this game. Mother 3 isn't a ROM hack, except it is because Nintendo still won't localize the game, so what I'm playing here is an extremely well-made fan translation that puts the game into the English language. So yes, this is a ROM hack. I win. The thing that really makes the Mother trilogy so special is that on the surface these are very goofy and lighthearted games. They're full of funky music, the characters are always bursting with funny conversation, it's got this bright, quirky, cartoonish aesthetic and a charming atmosphere that makes you feel like a kid again, and that's what it is. It's a story about growing up. But that's where it gets scary, because in spite of all this funky, happy, childlike atmosphere, these games are always hiding something deeply sinister and messed up, and if you've played these games, you know the shit I'm talking about. And that really is a big part of growing up. When you're little, your parents try to manufacture a happy, peaceful narrative about the world around you, and you believe it until you start to gain awareness, and you realize that there are so many downright horrible things in this world. Loss, destruction, death, poverty, disease. Life isn't fair. It's terrible. And then we fucking die. And these are all things we have to come to terms with, and in the case of Lucas, he had a very rude awakening from the get-go. But before we talk about that, let's discuss the actual game first. Now, Mother 3 is an RPG, and for me, even the best RPGs are usually dragged down by the very fact that they're RPGs, and Mother 3 isn't completely immune to RPG bullshit. Take RNG for instance. I get that risk mitigation in the face of RNG with respect to status effects, critical hits, and whether or not the enemy will pull a fucko move out of its pocket is a skill in and of itself, but so much of it just isn't in your control, and I find that frustrating. I made a whole video on that, that's how annoying it is. However, what makes Mother 3's combat system so great is that there are things that you can control. Like Earthbound, it has a rolling hit points counter, which means that even if you take mortal damage, you can still stand your ground while the counter is descending to 0. This makes for tense moments where you start moving fast as shit in order to do stuff before it reaches the bottom, but here's where it gets really messed up, okay? You see, Mother 3 also added a feature where you can actually get combo attacks on your enemies if you rhythmically tap the A button to the beat of the enemy's theme song. So, you have to pace your attacks to get all that extra damage, but if you're running out of health, you have to manage that with the rolling hit points. Playing this game actually does require a degree of skill and understanding of these systems, and people who are good at the game will wait for health to roll all the way back up before doing any kind of moves or attacks, and that's kind of what the game expects of you. It expects you to be smart like that. In a very subtle way, this actually made the combat feel a lot smarter than many other RPGs I've played in the past, and it achieved that without having a fucking avalanche of convoluted intertwining systems that just confused the shit out of me. It's straightforward, and it's smart. In terms of progression, a big difference that I noticed with this game versus its predecessors was how much more linear it was. With Mother and Earthbound, there are things that tell you where to go and what to do, but you're usually free to walk around otherwise. Mother 3, on the other hand, just keeps gradually pushing you in the direction of the next big thing, and I actually think that works for the story that this game is trying to tell. There are so many more dramatic story beats that occur so frequently that wandering around might be a bit of a disservice. Mother 3 still retains that whimsical, childlike touch, and not just in the dialogue, but also in general atmospheric details. You have frogs driving cars, you have police officers who literally just want to arrest you for no reason. There's Mecha Mode, motherfucking Mecha Mode, it's motherfucking. But then there's this bat where it plays the fucking Batman theme, you fight him and it's just but they also cranked up the anguish to the point that the overall story of the game, even if there's sometimes a hint of optimism, really isn't happy at all. And this quirky dissonance between the tremendously sad story and the funky, humorous world and characters is what makes Mother 3. You feel sad for all the horrible things happening, but that's offset by upbeat music and surreal humor. It creates this weird bipolar turmoil. The very premise of this game is that Lucas's mother gets fucking killed by a mecha Drago created by the Pig Mask Army. Then his brother Klaus goes missing, so your depressed father goes searching for him. Meanwhile, these imperialist fatties start modernizing the town and messing with people's lives and heads and destroying everything, all in the name of Master Porky. Now, if you've played Earthbound, you'll remember Porky as the secondary villain to Gygas. He was a conniving little shit who spent much of the game mercilessly antagonizing Ness and his friends, which was very odd considering he was your friend at the beginning. Porky was already a mysterious character, but sometime between Earthbound and Mother 3, Porky became the fucking daddy god emperor of the universe. He is easily one of the best video game villains ever made, especially in this game. Even with the prerequisite knowledge from Earthbound, he's made to be such a mysterious character in Mother 3, to the point that you don't even get to see him right up until near the end of the game. And at first I thought I knew exactly how Porky would show up because of Earthbound, but as I went further into the game I started to realize that I really didn't know shit. And that's what an engaging story should have: mystery. Most of my favorite stories have mystery behind them, and that's what drives you forward, the pursuit of answers. What's behind the 1,000-year door? Why does Count Bleck want to destroy the world? What the fuck kind of name is Skull Kid? And I love all the characters in this game. You got the nice happy family who, if you want to have a fun time, I recommend naming them after your actual family members. Trust me, it'll be fun. You have Duster, a young man with a limp whose father constantly berates him for being a moron, until he gets amnesia and becomes the bassist for a famous band. Kumatora, a tomboyish princess with PSI abilities, raised by Ionia, one of the 7 Magypsies. 7? I forget how many there are. Anyway, the Magypsies are androgynous humanoid creatures who protect a land with fucking magic and shit. You have Facade, who's a complete asshole bitch who I want to punch in the face in real life because he keeps torturing Salsa, the dancing monkey, so we can help him with a sales pitch. You have the Pig Mask Invaders, who are simultaneously comically evil and charmingly hilarious at the same time, and that's the whole thing. These guys represent what makes these games so great, because they're as sinister as they are funny. I think Porky specifically is a great example of what Mother 3 does in terms of pacing. It's very good at spacing out those very powerful, heavy moments. The next funny detail or conversation is always right around the corner, holding you over until the next major plot development, and the gameplay doesn't mess with you to the point of frustration. Well, actually, that part where you have to walk across the ocean floor without drowning was kind of annoying, but at least you get laid by all these sexy mermen/oxygen tanks. Yeah, this is a game, alright. Mother 3 is excellent at savoring powerful moments. You know the main story where you play as Lucas, Duster, Boney, and Kumatora? You don't even get to play that until Chapter 4, because they're doing so much world building to establish this enchanted, miserable universe. They're showing you change and progression, and that's another thing. The world of Mother 3 is a fascinating place because it changes over time. In the beginning, Tazmily is a small village where everyone knows each other and helps each other out, and it's kind of like an old-timey fantasy land. But then when it turns into this suburbia, people turn into these materialistic assholes who only care about watching the latest fucking Grey's Anatomy on their brand new Apple TV until they up and leave for the big city. They're completely oblivious to all the messed up things happening around them, like the decrepit old people's home and the military bases being built on their land. Like that could ever happen. I remember when they introduced the DP system to the game, which is functionally identical to the money system from the previous games. It was weird because in that moment I was like, wait, shit, I've been playing an RPG for 10 hours and there was no money or equipment shops anywhere. What just happened? And that's the special thing about Mother 3. It doesn't just make you feel, but it makes you think as well. Actually, just now, I recall the beginning of the game where I was playing as Flint. I was getting really fed up with this part with all these stupid-ass snakes that kept poisoning me. Then I discovered that somebody left a box of antidotes in this house here just to take for your journey, as like a courtesy. And just before that, this woman from the village just gives you bread as just like a nice gesture and a great way to help you out on your journey. These little details matter a whole lot more, especially as you go further into the game. And this becomes less and less common as people only start to pay attention to their own needs. Right up until the end, the game has a lot to say while simultaneously making you ask more questions, but because of all the weird humor in this game, it never feels pretentious or preachy. It's as profound as it is funny, and it is profoundly funny and shockingly profound, in a funny way. It is worth noting that people have often read Mother 3 as a story of the dangers of unchecked capitalism and materialism, and it's cool that the game has those themes. Now, it's not the first or most recent game to be interpreted that way, but what makes it better than many games that came later is that this is shown to you rather than outright told to you like you're a baby who needs to be told what to think. If this was made by any other shitbox AAA studio, they wouldn't be able to pull this off as well. Like, if this game was made by Ubisoft, there'd be this long expositional scene where Duster starts busting out quotes from Marx and Engels, and then Mr. Saturn comes on and says some shit like, capitalism? More like, bad? Or, I don't know. I have no idea what a Mr. Saturn sounds like. You know, with the way Nintendo is going these days, I almost wonder if Porky himself is running the company right now. And if you are to consider these themes along with Nintendo's tendency to be an asshole, I don't know if it's poetic or ironic that the only way to play this game, because they still refuse to localize it, is to play it unofficially without giving them your money. Yeah, that's a thinker. Of course, they are a corporation and they don't give a half a shit about me, or you, or Joy-Con drift. It's a big club, and we ain't in it. Not that we need Mother 3 to tell us that, anyway. This game does things that will stick with you for a long time, both emotionally and physically. I actually had the ending of this game spoiled for me, and it still fucking blew me away. I walked away from this game asking serious questions about myself, you know, whether I was doing the right things in real life, whether I was treating my family and friends the way I should. This is a game about family and friendship after all, and I've played very few games in my life that managed to do that effectively, and that kind of makes it the perfect game not only for Christmas, but also for this absolutely miserable year. Christmas should be about family and friends, more so than just throwing your money at a bunch of bullshit. And social isolation has really put family and friends at the forefront of many of our minds. I beat this game a few weeks back. It was a time of major anxiety and loneliness, and it still kind of is, to be honest, and it had a very powerful impact on me. So tell your family and friends that you love them and that you care about them. Cause you can buy a PS5 for 700 whole ass Canadian dollars, but you can't put a price on friendship, or love, or basic ass human compassion. So, Merry Christmas. Oh, and the game is really good, so yeah, play it.